City Council, can I get the pledge of allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Can I get a roll call, please?
Councilmember DeGolia?
Here.
Councilmember Ledford?
Here.
Councilmember Lewis? Here. Vice Mayor Whitmer?
Here.
Mayor Weiss?
Here. It looks like tonight we got a full calendar of presentations, so we're gonna go ahead and start with Chief McCall.
Thank you, Mayor. So this is the fun part of my job, where I get to recognize a lot of the good stuff that we are doing in the police department. Some people are leaving the police department, but we'll get to that later. But first up tonight is I wanted to recognize our outstanding ADAPT group, Atherton Disaster Preparedness Team. I've been working very closely with them since I've been here. The professionalism, the dedication, the energy has just been amazing this last year, and I felt it was important that the mayor agreed to recognize them. And so I'll read the following. Oh, first start with a little history, because I was asked this. It would start with the retired Marine Corps officer, Bob Jenkins. I'm not sure how long ago, Scott.
About 10 years ago.
And then
12.
Scott Farnham, who we'll get to, then Atherton resident, took over.
Crazily.
Okay. Brought on Tom Prusting, who was retired. He was the emergency manager for Stanford University, a great fit. And then we have Norma Fogelberg, our treasurer, Colleen Haight, our vice president. And then we have about 30 or 40 members. And when you show up on a Saturday morning once, and this is all volunteer, when you show up on a Saturday morning, you got 30 or 40 people, and you got more people that want to come on board. The exercises that they've done, I can tell you have a lot of experience in this area of Washington State, and this community is head and shoulders above others in readiness. And the next part is, as Tom always likes to say, is on us to make sure that we're ready and be prepared. So that said, proclamation of the City Council of the Town of Atherton in recognition of Atherton Disaster Preparedness Team. Whereas the Town of Atherton recognizes Atherton Disaster Preparedness Team ADAPT, which has been at the forefront of helping the Town of Atherton residents prepare for major emergencies, and whereas in honor of ADAPT, the City Council and the Town of Atherton, along with the entire community, would like to honor the contributions that the former and current members have made to Atherton through ADAPT, and whereas ADAPT's commitment to train, organize Atherton residents to be resilient, response capable, recovery able in the event of a townwide emergency disaster event. And whereas the Town of Atherton thanks ADAPT for the contributions they made to the Town of Atherton, including establishing a 501c3 public charity, development and sustainment, gotta go to page 2, development and sustainment of a positive and effective working relationship with the Atherton Police Department, Menlo Park Fire District, and the Community Emergency Response Team. And also for creating a website for posting Atherton Emergency Preparedness Handbook to assist our residents with emergency plans, the establishment and implementation of emergency assembly points around the community, which were getting close to being completed, and identified and equipped emergency caches with 3 emergency response trailers, and set up our, of course, our important ADAPT meetings. Now, I, by virtue of authority invested in me as the mayor of the Town of Atherton, do hereby recognize ADAPT members and express our sincere appreciation for their service to the Atherton community. Very well deserved. Mayor, may I go on to number 2?
Wait, before you do that.
Yes, sir.
Some comments. I just want to congratulate the ADAPT team. This is a really well-deserved proclamation. You've done a remarkable job, and it really protects our community. And I feel honored that you have committed the time, Scott, all of you. It's really very significant, and I just feel proud of it.
Thank you.
And Tom, last time you were at the fire district and you made a presentation of the number of people at your last meeting, can you just kind of briefly say something about that, or, I mean, I think it's remarkable as far as accomplishment.
We hope, as a matter of fact, I've arranged with Teresa that we will be presenting a 5-minute PowerPoint. But very quickly, we broke the record that we have set in the previous 6. We had 102 participants. We had a first time ever bilingual training. We had first time ever 8-person mass casualty rescue in a collapsed building. We had quite a number of firsts in this drill. Matter of fact, our volunteer management team was headed up by Rick DeGolia, Bill Whitmer, and Robert Jones of the fire district, so they were able to get people organized. It was an outstanding event. As I said, we had 7 firsts ever in our drill. And we're looking forward to the next drill, which will be next September in Holbrook Palmer Park and in Felton Gables, and we have some great surprises for everyone. Thank you. Oh, and by the way, I want to thank the Public Works Department and the council for the incredible support. Obviously, the chief, Sherman, thank you very much.
Thanks again, Tom, and all the adapters. Awesome.
I think it's important to note too that not only do they have a first aid response capability, but we have 6-7 doctors on the team enough to open up a small clinic. So when you say we have the medical tent capacity, okay, retired Sergeant Sherman Hall wants to come here and join me. I want to introduce Sherman Hall. Thank you for coming. Retired Sergeant from Atherton, and I was just telling his parents, so I finally got to meet tonight, and his wife, his daughter. Very huge shoes to fill that you left the department. I begged and pled not to go. But we still have a piece of him there because he's coming back as a reserve. And so we're going to be able to I'm trying to keep it to 3 pages.
It is 20-size font.
It is, so I can. So, anyway, proclamation of the City Council of the Town of Atherton in recognition of Sherman Hall the Fourth. That's cool. Whereas Sherman Hall the Fourth has spent over 20 years serving the Atherton community, including 16 years in a sworn police position and 4 years as a reserve volunteer for the Atherton Police Department. Whereas Sherman, in his role as police sergeant, plans, schedules, deploys, supervises, and reviews the work of officers on his assigned shift, performs a full range of patrol-related duties involving the prevention of crime and the protection of life and property. Whereas Sherman is branded as, and this is very true, a jack of all trades because of involvement with Rapid Enforcement Allied Computer Team, REACT, Emergency and Disaster Preparedness, the Detective Division, Website Development, Internet Technology, Coordination for the entire town for his superb investigative skills. He is a, I think we call it Tiny Ivy League? It says Ivy League. Hamilton University, very prestigious graduate who majored in computer science, of course, which makes for one extremely capable investigator. When asked by his colleague how he managed to solve certain crimes, his response was, "I just followed digital breadcrumbs." And whereas, because of Sherman's experience with internet technology, the police department is often ahead of the game when it came to IT, operational efficiencies, and best practices. Sherman masterminded and oversaw the wiring installation of security cameras at Holbrook Palmer Park. Page 2, he helped implement solutions for officer body-worn cameras, installation and management of automated license plate recognition software in our police vehicles. Sherman works tirelessly, as you can tell, throughout his career, staying abreast of technology advancements to help keep the town up to date on all the latest trends. And whereas, most recently, and in addition to his role as police sergeant, Sherman assisted the town in coordinating all activities and objectives of the town's disaster preparedness summer intern program, oversaw the regional Yellow Command exercise through Urban Shield, and organized all staff roles within the Emergency Operations Center, and assisted the town with redeveloping its website to be more responsive and user-friendly. Moreover, Sherman provided outstanding leadership in his role as acting commander during 2016 and 2017 while the town recruited its police chief, which I believe that's me. Thank you. Whereas the City Council and the town of Atherton, along with the entire community, would like to honor and thank Sherman Hall for his contributions to the town during his law enforcement career in Atherton. Now, therefore, I, by virtue of the authority vested in me as mayor of the town of Atherton, do hereby commend Mr. Sherman Hall and express my sincere appreciation to his service to the Atherton community and congratulate him on his
I told Sherman he's already missed, and but he's staying close, and I think that we're going to be able to have a good relationship, partnership with the next chapter, along with the town. So we do appreciate all your years of experience, and you are going to be missed. I think I have an IT problem already. So.
I've enjoyed my years here. Like I said, I'm still the reserve. I haven't completely stepped away, but it was time, and I'm happy that they've got a great replacement for me, and look forward to getting them sworn in.
Thank you, Sherman.
Next, we will be swearing in Sergeant David Gomez. David, if you want to come forward, you can stand here facing them, and I'll stand over here. So, this is Sergeant David Gomez. This really is one of the favorite parts of my job, is to be able to identify a leader, work with them, motivate them, and promote them. The sergeant is the most important position in a police department. They're tasked with not only developing and mentoring their team, but they're also tasked with implementing management policies from above, and that sometimes put them in the middle, which isn't the best position, but I know David is geared up for it. So David's usually very shy and reserved. So tonight I was asking him some information about his background, and he just kept going and going and going. What's really cool about David is he's a fellow Washingtonian from Longview, Washington, south of Seattle. He's a graduate of UC Irvine with a bachelor's degree in criminal justice. He's starting his master's program at the University of San Diego. Congratulations on that. He's been with the department for 10 years and includes 1 year as a reserve. And the list goes on from canine handler to gang task force member to school resource officer to range instructor. So he brings all that experience to the table, which is going to enable him to really carry on the tradition of Sergeant Hall and our team. And so with that, I will officially swear you in. So if you raise your right hand. I state your name.
David Gomez,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend
that I will support and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
that I bear true faith and allegiance
that I bear true faith and allegiance
to the Constitution of the United States
to the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California.
and the Constitution of the State of California.
I take this obligation freely
I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion,
without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion,
and I will well and faithfully discharge
and I will well and faithfully discharge
the duties upon which I'm about to
the
enter.
duties about to enter. Thank you, sir.
It's a small family that's here tonight, so if you want to have them all come up, introduce them, and then I'll have your wife pin your badge on you, as is our tradition.
My wife Jordan, our oldest Emerson, Ireland, Peyton, and our little guy Lawson.
All right, congratulations. Okay, next and final, Mayor, I promise I'm in a hurry. Want to send them in, Brian? Is Chris here?
Yes.
Oh, okay. He's right here. Is he coming?
He was out front.
Maybe he's tracking somebody.
So, Chrissy, before everybody.
1
gets
second.
here, is that the new dog or?
No. No,
this
your
is-
dog? Okay, the new dog
This is Clancy.
I'm just.
I go with Chauncey.
Okay, John.
Hey, those are. Sydney.
Come on in, Chris. This is our new dog.
No.
Come on up front.
Over there?
Yep, right here. Oh, yeah, over there. We gotta keep it
Just to keep
separated.
them apart.
I think that's right. So I'm not sure it's tradition that I found in this county or maybe California, but in Washington, I bring the tradition down of swearing in the canine, because the canine it's more than a tool. It is an animal, but it becomes the partner of our officer, and so they do an incredible job as a partner for us. Atherton has a steep history with the canine program. I believe it's over 20 years old. 1969, excuse me.
No, I'm sorry, 66.
66. I was 5 years old. But some people ask. I've asked. They've been asked the question: why do you have dogs? Why do you need it? Our community is unique. We have large properties. These are invaluable when we have to search them with the number of alarms we get and other information. We're able to assist those agencies that don't have canine with tracking. So we do want to swear them in. I will introduce. If you want to introduce Clancy. Chauncey. Sorry.
Okay.
So Chauncey comes to us from the Czech Republic, where dogs are bred and trained and brought to the United States. Been with us for 4 years. Crystal Kronsky, the handler, has been with us for 8 or 9 years.
Just shy of 10.
Wow, 10 years. So, a lot of service will swear them in. Chris Green is one of our new employees, and if you want to introduce your dog with the full name, please.
Good evening, this is Art Blue Penny. All those are common spellings. He's also from the Czech Republic. He's a Belgian Malinois, and that's spelled very much like Illinois, pronounced Malinois. He's 4 years old, came to us from Whitmer Tyson Kennels over in Menlo Park. He was originally special ordered from a Czech police department over there. Over there, the officers breed dogs because their income is so low that they have to have supplemental income. So they breed dogs, and then they document them and they sell them to other countries. He is 4 years old. He was ordered by a department in California who backed out of the order after the dog was already delivered. So we are the beneficiaries of being able to get a dog that actually came over, has about a year here. He's already been through some training, and he's the first Malinois, I believe, in the department.
And his English is good?
He speaks modern English, but he responds to Czech commands.
With that, I will swear in the dogs. It's important to note, and you're probably aware, we have a longtime resident who for several years has been very generous in donating the dogs. This year, she wanted to do more, and she purchased a brand new canine Ford Explorer for us at no small cost. It's great having that type of relationship with the residents, which we do with many. We would like to recognize her publicly. She doesn't want to, so I've done it personally, but it's great having that. So, can't raise the right paw, or can they?
Probably.
I state your name. Do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California against all enemies, foreign and domestic, and that I bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California, that I take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion, and that for dog food I will well and faithfully discharge the duties upon which I'm about to enter. So congratulations to you both, and thanks for taking the time to come.
She does it right. Chris, do you want to go first? She will be 6 at the end of November, yes. No.
And Chief, we have 2 canines, correct?
Yes, we do.
Those are them? All right.
That's cool. Good job.
Chief, you have anything
Do
else?
those more often.
Not till
Yeah,
later.
bring in the dogs. Do that more often.
Yeah, they're more fun than that.
They're really cute.
Yeah, absolutely.
So pretty, huh? Yeah, I never. That was a German Shepherd.
To wish Jennifer a happy birthday.
Oh, happy birthday.
Yeah, she's devoted, she's here on her birthday. We're gonna go ahead and move into the final item of the presentations, which is the Cal Water presentation. Don't see Don. And well, that was a good presentation. We'll move her into November. All right. All right, so let's go ahead and move into public comments. Any member of the public would like to make a public comment on an item that is not on the agenda. Please step up.
Before we start, I'd just like to pass out some of these pictures. You could just pass them out. Don't do it justice for what's really happening at my house. But it's better than nothing.
Thanks, you, Jen.
But they're-
Two or one?
they're different. So
they're all
they're different.
So it's one
Different
package?
buildings. No, they're 2 different structures.
We're good then. you guys just, sure. Thank you. Hey, you can go. Can I get your name for the record, please?
Jeanette Goodman, my husband.
Isaac Goodman, sometimes referred to as Ike with no relatives.
Thank you.
99 Reservoir Road,
Thank you very much.
adjacent to property on Sargent Lane.
Thank you very much. Perfect.
The purpose of being here for just a few moments is to acquaint you with an issue that we have with respect to the construction of a new home, which lot abuts ours. We have no ill feelings toward our neighbor in this respect, so I want to be making that very clear. What we have is something that fits the saying that something that is in general fits all purposes. This is the case where it simply does not. The regulations regarding planning does not apply, technically it does, but it does not apply in our situation. And the reason for that is that there is an elevation that is at the very line between the two parcels. The elevation is something like 5 or 6 feet, so that when the construction is done, we are looking at a structure that could be 3 or 4 stories. Now, we're not going to talk about destroying something that is already in existence. Let me just pause for a moment and tell you that we praise the staff that we have talked to. They've been very kind and generous toward us, listening to us, and they are certainly happy that we have a chance to address you. We are here because there needs to be some amelioration to take into account the differential in elevation. And this can be done in a number of ways, but the purpose of being here is to ask you to encourage the staff to work on something that will be useful in taking care of that elevation issue. The most obvious thing is screening. I know that there will be something coming up regarding the screening, and we are concerned that if the typical arrangement for planting might work for one type of budding lots, but it will not work here. We need to see that there is mature trees that are located in such a way that we will have some protection from the looming construction going next door. Again, we want our neighbor to have everything that they're entitled to. We are only asking that this be considered to help us because it impacts our lot. When we are there looking at this structure, which you will see if you wish, you will see how great and how tall the structure is. We hope that this will be resolved, and I think that with some encouragement on your part, that will be completed. Thank you.
I would just like to add a couple of things. I just kind of made a quick design here. We have no privacy at all anymore. This is where our pool area is. And then we have an elevation of about 5 feet, and we have a large flat area. Then there's an elevation about 20 feet, and we have a fence there. Now, the neighbor property is another like 6 or 8 feet above that, so that the foundation of these 2 buildings they're putting up is above our fence line, above the top of our fence. So that there's 2 buildings. One is a pool pavilion, that we see the whole thing, and then next to it is a pool dressing changing room. This whole structure is about 50 or 60 feet long. It all looks right over our yard. And as I say, we have no privacy. We are at the age, we've been in our house for 41 years. We love it there. We've always had wonderful privacy, wonderful neighbors. And this land has just been subdivided and all ripped down. We also will have another building going up next to it, but we'll get to that after we get to this. And we just know that we are not able to sell our property now. We were looking into retirement homes and what have you, because we're both in our 80s. But there's no way that we can put our house on the market the way this is, because it really would depreciate the value of our property a great deal. So we are hoping that we can get this resolved soon. We cannot wait 2 years for a house to be finished and for landscaping plans to be approved. We have to have greenery put in there, non-deciduous trees put up so that we have some privacy. And it's quite a stretch there of land, but that's what we would want to get across to the planning committee or landscaping committee or whoever is in charge of this. We have spoken to them. They've been very nice and very cooperative, but they tell us about that according to the laws here that the shrubbery can grow up to 5 years. Well, 5 years is a long time. We can't wait 5 years to have some privacy. So I think that we need to have some meeting of the minds and get this fixed.
Thank you.
And any of you who would like to come visit, please be our guest. Come anytime. You don't need an invitation. We don't have any dogs. And you can just come in our yard and you can see what's going on there. Thank you.
Thank you, Jen.
Okay, bye.
Any other members, any public comment that is not on the agenda? Seeing none, I'm closing public comments. You know that I'm just a formality. We can't respond to you, so it's.
Yes, I understand that.
One of my colleagues had mentioned, so I just wanted to let you know.
You know, this was the setback, this 10-foot setback, and that's where this all is, right next to our fence.
Thank you, Jen.
Thank you.
All right, can I go ahead and move on to city manager's report, please?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. You have a written report before you. I answered a couple of questions in advance during some one-on-ones, none of which were significant, and a couple of those answers I'll put into a Friday city council notes format once I've got some additional information. So that's here to answer any further questions the council may have.
Any members of council have any questions of George related to his city manager's report? Seeing none, any members of the audience, any comments related to city manager's reports? Seeing none, I'm going to go ahead and close public comments, move on to the consent calendar, items number 8 through 16. Any members of council like to pull any item? I'm sorry, George has a tee up, please. George?
Before you move on to consent calendar there, Mr. Mayor and members of the council, item number 12 has to be pulled from the agenda entirely. It's not appropriate for it to be on the agenda this evening. It's not necessary, basically. So it's no longer going to be coming to the council unless items 10 and 11 progress to the point where we need a full EIR.
Okay, so let's go ahead and 8 through 16.
I do have a question on just, is there any update on the issue with Tetra Tech and Hunters Point and the corruption issues they were having there?
No, I haven't heard any additional information on that.
No, I haven't heard
We can
anything.
seek some additional information, but they haven't received any recently. We'll look into the rest of that.
Any other questions for George on any of the employees? Councilman Lewis?
Item number 11,
will we be adding language regarding these stormwater and flooding issues along ECR to be folded into their scope of work?
Yes, we will.
Okay, so how will that come back to us for approval?
We'll just amend it so that they do that analysis.
Can you talk to us now about how you envision, what kind of language would it be?
What I want them to look at, what we want them to look at is collection of the water from the Redwood City boundary down along El Camino and pulling it east, I guess that is.
Yeah.
Up to,
It seems
up and over, so it would require pumping, that they would need to evaluate the feasibility of that to connect it to what we're looking at for the extension system.
Okay. And if that were incorporated into this business basin, the goal would be to alleviate the flooding problems that
Southeast Stockbridge, Tuscaloosa, Almadrell, yeah.
Yes, at El Camino.
That's correct.
Any other questions for George on items 8 through 16 minus 12? Seeing none. Any members of the audience like to pull any items 8 through 16 and number 12 is already out? Seeing none, I'll bring it back to council. Can I get a motion to approve items 8 through 16 minus number 12? And a second on that, please.
Second.
Any further discussion?
I will recuse myself from item 10 and 11 because I am a professor over at Menlo College.
Thank you very much, Bill. So Bill's recusal on items 10 and 11, and 12 is already pulled. And can I get a all in favor?
Aye.
Great. Yep, perfect. Let's go ahead and move to item number 17. Oh, and we're gonna I'm going to the regular agenda. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna move item number 18 to follow item number 19. So 19's first, 18's last, because Mike's gonna be recusing himself from item number 18. So let's go ahead and jump into item number 17, and that would be Chief McCullough. What, you were a busy guy.
I'm back.
While you're earning your keep.
VIP today.
Yeah. Well, I'm really excited to, Mayor, member of the council, I'm really excited to present this project to you. And as you can see, this is Sergeant Hall's last handiwork before he left. E-citation, what we're recommending tonight is that you direct the city manager to execute a contract with Tyler Technologies to implement e-citation program with our department. Just to give you a little background information, currently, as I'm sure you're aware, even today when I started my career 35 years ago, everything is done on paper now with citations, written warnings, our collision reports, etc. A lot of time, there's officer safety concerns, there's errors that go through the court, there's a lot of time that happens with dispatch because all the information on our citations and our written warnings has to get hand entered into our computer system. So the reason we want to migrate and take a leap forward with e-citation is one of the biggest things is officer safety. We're trained now here in California is to not sit in your car when you're issuing a citation. You need to be outside. The longer you're out there, you're at risk with motor vehicle collision, you're at risk with maybe violators in the car. So the e-citation really enhances the efficiency and the safety of the officers utilizing a scanner. And Mary asked for, I didn't get the device, but you have pictures there in front of you. The one I've highlighted is the type and size of the device the officer would carry. We're working now to have a combination device that would also be a smartphone, which would solve another project we've been working on, is enabling the officers to have a smartphone so they don't use their personal phones, which is another issue. Page 2 is the printer. It looks big in the picture, but it's actually very small, less than 3 pounds. And it's portable. It can go in a motorcycle, it can go in a car. We can also implement this technology utilizing the in-car laptops as well. We want to start with 3 devices to make sure that we're testing it and that it utilizes it before what we anticipate we would expand next fiscal year. On page 2, I've noted the cost analysis. We issue approximately 3,500 citations a year right now. That equates in cost from officer time and records time to about $36,000. E-citation, working with the vendor, and Sherman Hall crunched in the numbers, we're anticipating that we would save $20,000 a year going forward. It's not just the dollar savings, but it's more time allowing the officers to get back on the street to actually produce more and deal with more traffic issues. And then also there is the court piece. This is fully enabled with the court system. The court will take this information electronically from our dispatch. They're fully capable of handling this already. So again, just from a records person driving handwritten records up to the court, we're able to do it all electronically. So with that, I will stop and take any of your questions that you may have about the program.
Elizabeth, please.
Thank you. So I watched the video, that the link, the Orange County, pretty impressive, you know, the software developer, was very good at explaining. So I can see how it would speed things up. The question is, does Menlo Park use this?
They do. I don't know if it's the same technology. I know it's older technology. If it's not the same, it's very similar.
Yeah. And Redwood City?
I don't know about Redwood City. I do know that Tyler Technologies is the lead in this area across the country.
They're involved in everything.
Yeah, well, it seems like we give a lot of tickets out. It's nothing like what Menlo Park does, or Menlo Park has lots of tickets now. So,
Well, I mean, as you know, and it was one of my marching orders when I came here, is continuing to deal with our number one complaint and priority beyond the schools is traffic, which is increasing. We do issue a lot of citations, but we also issue a lot of verbal warnings and written warnings for education. I mean, it's officer's discretion, it's a tool, but sometimes the ticket is the way to get their attention to continue to work on traffic problems that are increasing in our community.
can you give a warning ticket with the
Yes, you can, and also too, we just found out that through court enforcement, she's able to issue administrative cites as well.
So would she be able to use that also?
Potentially, yes.
Okay.
That would be the second iteration.
That would be, yeah, okay.
Any other members of council questions for Chief?
Yes, sir.
Please.
On page 2 of the handout, you show the handheld devices. Did you say you're using all 3 of these?
No, the one I underscored, I'm sorry, and that's a good question. The one I highlighted is the smaller one, which is also a combination of a smartphone.
Okay, so the proposal is what we would buy is this handheld device, 3 of them. So we'd have 3 officers that would be using them, and can the same device be used in the day and the evening shift?
Absolutely.
By different officers?
Right.
And would we be buying 3 printers?
Yes.
Okay.
So that's the beauty of the design, is it's mobile. So right now we're going to be focusing and targeting our motors units, which we anticipate will have the most use of this. So the printer fits in the saddlebag. It's all Wi-Fi, wireless. When they come back to the police department, they download it. It goes right through. It doesn't even touch, our records are dispatched, bring them up. It goes right to the court system.
Mike, thanks.
Just a quick question, which is, Memo talks all about benefits, which are great, it seems. Any downsides? What's the possible disadvantage to the system?
Well, none that I know of. I mean, if the system goes down, you go back to paper citations, which we'll have to maintain some in the event that it does go down. My last agency and large state police agencies have gone to it, fully integrated with collision reports and everything else. I don't know of any downside other than it's just so antiquated that we're still doing what I did 35 years ago, writing and then somebody hand entering the data. This takes away all that, cuts the errors. And officer safety wise, they're able to check your driver's license without even going through radio, check to see if that you're wanted. So it's a huge leap forward for us. I know that Sherman's been wanting to do this for several years.
Bill?
I don't have a question.
Chief, what's the lifespan of a system, a reader and a handheld unit?
That I don't know, but I know that the initial cost of just the 3 is about $28,000. The ongoing costs after that are only $1,600 or $1,700, and we'd be working with Robert to do the set aside for the equipment replacement, like we do with cars and everything else. But for the lifespan, I'm not sure. Technology will probably overtake it within just a few years, going to the next step.
Are there yearly updates related to the software, or is it continual?
That's included with our ongoing maintenance agreement.
Gotcha. And I know you mentioned the benefits of paperless. I mean, we are always dealing with records issues. Is there any policy issues that come into play when we add a e-reader and a paperless system that has?
Not that I'm aware of. If there's anything to do with public disclosure, it's available.
It's all electronic.
And just to tap on something that Mike said, related to, I know cell service in town is intermittent based on where you are. Is this based on wireless technology?
It is, and we recently went through FirstNet through AT&T, which dramatically improved that capability for first responders. So it's made our system even more reliable, and it fully integrates with this as part of the FirstNet program.
Because it uses the same, it uses the backbone network, not the.
Yes.
Primary.
All right. Any other questions from council?
Quick on document retention.
Yeah, please.
It comes up a lot. Will this follow our same document retention guidelines?
Yes. If they, because I understand that some of these systems, they print out a copy when they come back, and if it doesn't, it wouldn't matter if it's electronically maintained, we still have the same document retention and destruction policy.
Yeah.
So.
Perfect, thank you. Any members of the public, would you like to make a public comment on this item on the agenda? Seeing none, I'm gonna go ahead and close public comments back to council. Any final comments by council?
Yeah, I got it.
Bill, please.
So, first off, I can see how this is a step forward and how it might even improve actually with warnings, which we seem to do a lot of. But I see this as hey, we're buying 3, but we have 10 vehicles. We got 7 cars, as I remember, 3 motorcycles, so that's really gonna be 10. We're gonna end up expanding to 10, and that's assuming that the chief won't have one in his car and the commander won't have one in his car, which would bring it to 12. So suddenly the $27,000 is gonna become, substantially larger. And the $7.2 thousand per year is also going to expand the same amount. And the savings that are presented here are really not savings, because we're not saving anything. We're having the same number of officers. And so, I can see that maybe they would be giving tickets to second people and third people that would be coming by, but I don't really see this really saving. So I think that there's more things to do specifically with the Civic Center and our crunch on cash at this point in time than to spend over $100,000 over probably the next 2 years, because you'll be back next year saying we've run a test and now we want to expand it and put it on everything, is what I'm anticipating. And even in your write-up, you say the initial purchase, meaning implying that I'm correct, that there's going to be follow-on purchases. So I'm not ready to sign up for a creeping procurement, which is just gets the nose of the camel under the tent. I'd like to see the whole cost of what we're going to go do and make sure that it's in line with everything else that we've got, and prioritize with everything else. And if it makes people more productive, that's great, but that's not a productivity savings unless you have a badge number of somebody who's going out the door, which you don't. So I don't support this at this point in time.
Thank you, Bill. Mike? Or Elizabeth? Or
Can I make a comment about it?
Please.
So, good question, council member. The initial request was for 6, which is as far out as our program will go. They don't need to be in every car because they're completely portable. I can move it into my car, I can move it out. So the amount was 6, which I believe was 37,000 or something originally. We wanted to scale it back with, rather than just purchasing 6, we want to purchase 3. This is new to us. Make sure it works. I have every faith and effort that it will work, but I think it's prudent to do that, to beta test it for us. And then if we find that there's efficiencies and it's effective, move to the full 6, but that would be the amount that we don't need more than that.
Good comment on that. Sure.
Okay.
Then I would suggest you talk with Tyler Industries and ask them to loan us a couple for a couple months, and we play around with them and see how they go, as opposed to making an investment, then coming back to the council, or at least that's what I would like to see, with the full-on this is what I'd like to have. And maybe if it's a multi-year thing, we're gonna buy 3 here and 3 there, that's fine, but we should see the whole thing, and the public should see the whole thing, as opposed to, you know, like I said, getting started and then we have to follow through.
Well, as part of this development, working with Sergeant Hall, we did have the vendor come out to the PD. They did demonstrate the equipment to us. They pointed us in the direction of other agencies that have it. We've been in conversation with those. We do know the technology works. It's not new. It's utilized throughout the country, so I don't have any concerns that it's not going to work for us if it's working for somehow for everybody else.
Okay. Any other council members? Please.
I look at this quite a bit differently than Bill. I think that it is a really good idea to use technology that will improve our efficiency and enable the officers to be actively doing their duty rather than spend 10 to 15 minutes on every citation. So I see that as a positive thing. I don't know the technology, but it sounds like you are quite familiar with it and you've looked into it, and it sounds effective. So I feel pretty favorable to it. I'm not sure why we need 6 if we generally have 3 officers out on the street. 3 makes sense to me. I'm sure you have a plan for why you would think about 6, and we could talk about that.
And 6 is a probable. That's a good point. That's why we want to get the 3 and just see what capacity it has. Maybe that 3 is enough, or maybe 4. We'll get the magic number that fits. And I think rather than just, I mentioned it a little bit, but I think I need to put emphasis on it. Not just cost saving from efficiency, but when you look at the officer safety improvement value, you can't put a price on that. And each and every time that you're stopping a vehicle, you don't know who's driving, and you're in and out of your car. The longer that you're there increases officer safety risk. So the more that we can get it done and get them out and get off ECR and keep moving, there's a big issue there with officer safety for us as well.
I hear what Vice Mayor Whitmer is saying, and I hear what Rick has said, and I can say that the industry's changing. Obviously, e-readers is the direction that everybody's going to. I'm glad I don't actually know what this looks like, so that just tells you something. I don't think anybody here has ever seen one of these. That's a good thing. But I understand that this is the direction that the industry is going, and it sounds as if, you know, and forgive me if I'm wrong, but you're focusing on the traffic division, so that individuals that are in the traffic division, in essence, are going to be running, in essence, a pilot. I would hope that we look at and see how the results are, because I do know that a lot of times we get a lot of complaints at a particular location, and the officers may sit in that location for 20 minutes and then move to another location. It sounds to me as if for target enforcement that this would be something that would speed up, because as we've talked with the schools, I know that we've asked a numerous amount of officers to sit at a location for a period of time, and it's to get a message out. We don't write citations at every location. We do, and I understand that this is also going to apply to warnings, so we do issue warnings. It's one of our biggest complaints is actually traffic close to schools. And it's not about writing a larger number of citations, it's just about being as productive as possible, sending the message that we can alleviate, hopefully send a message to a problem. So I'm in favor of the program because I think that the industry itself is changing, and that I think that it'll also help us. I keep records too, and it's a pain in the tail to keep all your paper around. So I would assume that this is going to alleviate some of the headaches that are with that. So if we can actually follow how this program, if it gets implemented, so that we can see that there's a positive result. George, please.
Just one additional comment before Chief wanted anything more. But you mentioned code enforcement could use this. That's the first I've heard that. I think you just learned that today. As you know, we have a challenge sometimes with the hours of our code enforcement officer versus when the violations actually occur, and officers respond, and they are not as familiar with the municipal code as a code enforcement officer is, so they'll postpone any citation or ticket and then deliver it on Monday when the code enforcement officer goes back. These, I believe, have drop-down menus, and they select a particular violation. That makes it a whole lot easier for a police officer to actually issue an administrative citation for a code enforcement violation on the spot.
Do they, can you
So
take a
I
picture
just-
with these still?
Yeah.
No, go, I think you were asking what I was gonna do. Go ahead.
I was just, can you take a picture?
So with the smartphone model, if it says, and it should work, and it accomplishes what we need, because officers right now, they just, because it's easy, they tend to use their own private phones. We have phones in the car and they don't utilize them. So this not only takes a picture, it can videotape, it can audio record, it can do anything a smartphone can do, which then frees us from having to buy cameras, having to buy audio recorders. It's kind of a one-stop shop. And then just to comment about code enforcement, we've been working with Mr. Connors to provide education to our officers, because that's been something that I noticed since I've been here. Officers go, refer to code enforcement, refer to court enforcement. Why? You're sitting right there, and you can and should do that. So we're still working on that. And then just to comment, Mayor, on yours about our traffic division, another thing that I've been working with the commander on, there's too much emphasis on the traffic division doing traffic. I have many other officers that have a lot of proactive time, and we're just changing the mindset a little bit and making sure that they're getting out and about and that we're all sharing this, myself included and the commander, because that is our number one thing. And the tendency is to let detectives do all the investigations, let motorists do all the tickets. We're all in it, and so we're changing that mindset, and that's some of my expectations that have been going out lately.
Elizabeth, please.
So my question really was, with the drop-down menus, can we program our specific code violations?
Yes, very easily.
Customize the software.
That's
so
part of the
drop-down menu would be specific for
And that's part of the service, Tyler.
I think it's a valuable tool, and I think that your approach of just getting 3 now, and I don't see it as an unreasonable or exponential budget creep. I just don't think that we're going to get caught in that cycle. I think if we need it, and if we need more because of your thing, then that's a budgetary item that we have to discuss. But I think the 3 initially is sufficient.
Mike, any final comments?
No, I appreciate Vice Mayor Whitmer bringing up the points that are important to bring up. But to me, it makes a lot of sense with the new technology. We are in the heart of Silicon Valley, by the way. and with the new technology. And I would measure efficiency differently or productivity differently. I think that there's opportunity costs that you're picking up here for each officer, which is important. I also say that approving 3 is not approving 6, is not approving 12, to Vice Mayor Whitmer's point. And so please come back, and say, here's 3, here's what we learned, here's why it's good, we need 3 more, or 2 more, or whatever.
Just to add on to that comment, I'd like it, before you decide to move on, if you do decide to move on from 3 to 6, come and have a discussion with us in a study session so we can understand it I think it would be helpful for us to know how the technology is being used once you have that learning behind you, and what the strengths and weaknesses are of adding a 4th or up to 6. I don't want to assume we're going to do that.
No,
Yeah,
absolutely not.
that's,
Yeah.
yeah.
And I'm excited, if you do approve to implement, to come back in a few months and give you the report and the status. I should be able to bring the equipment here, or have a show and tell of the police department, or of course, as you know, you're always welcome to ride with the police officers, not the motorcyclists, but police officers. Or you could be stopped.
That's the way we like to experience it.
Yeah.
Right along.
Yeah, not a follow along.
Drive fast.
Perfect. Can I get a motion, please? A second. Oh, I would have did that.
We did, I missed that part.
Yeah.
It was very fast.
Hey,
So Lumpus
Stick
moved,
around.
I second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
I'm not voting on it. I think it should have been a complete offer to us. So, I'm not going to vote.
Thank you. All right, we're gonna go ahead and move to item number 19, please.
No.
Please, item number 19.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. Item number 19 is the penultimate of these CalPERS 1 through C. This is the last one for the DPOA bargaining unit and the 2 divisions of that, local miscellaneous and public safety. We'll have 1 more to go for local miscellaneous, and then we're done with this process. So with that, it's just recommendation to adopt the ordinance authorizing amendment to the contract between the town of Atherton and the Board of Administration of the California Public Employees Retirement System for that employee pickup of the employer share.
Perfect, thank you very much. Any questions for staff on this, please?
I do have one, I just am confused. The classic miscellaneous member contribution rate for the impacted members will be 8% of responsible earnings. The new miscellaneous member contribution rate for impacted members will be 7.5%. Let's walk me through that real quick.
So we actually have, classic is your original CalPERS members, and then you have all these PEPRA members that are new employees, that are under the new retirement systems. They have different amounts that they can contribute, and they are already set at those maximum amounts.
And how's our town split to the numbers between classic and new?
It changes every year as we hire new staff. New staff that we hire that are non-CalPERS members or have had a gap in their employment of 6 months or more, they automatically rotate into the PEPRA employment system. But if you hire somebody as a transfer or lateral in and they've been working for a CalPERS agency, they are still considered classic members. So it evolves.
Any idea what it is today?
There was a report, we'll send that to, there was a spreadsheet that we
They
gave
put
out.
out a spreadsheet a couple months ago.
I did,
Yeah, I think
One of my Friday emails.
our new members are now lower than the old members, yeah.
Yes, it's more PEPRA members than classic members.
That seems to be the trend.
Sherman left, so we might have
Yeah.
gained a spot.
We gained a
We're
little.
paying for them and not getting any benefit.
I don't know, we're still getting some benefits, it's a reserve now. All right, any other questions? Oh, Rick, please.
So 2 questions, just to clarify, what we're doing here is we're amending the contract with CalPERS to enable our safety and miscellaneous employees, both the classic and the PEPRA classifications, to go to the maximum level that is currently allowed for them to pay a portion of the employer portion of the pension. Is that correct?
You know, they're already doing that, this ratifies it.
Right, they're already doing that based on the contract that we entered into this year.
3 years ago, yeah.
Okay, but it was implemented progressively 1 year at a time to get to the maximum level. And so my second question is, and that maximum level is right now, is it?
Well, it's, so the public safety, I'm just going to do classic numbers. So classic public safety, their employee contribution is 9%, and they're allowed to go up to 12%, picking up 3% of the employee share, or the employer share. For local miscellaneous, non-sworn, their employee rate is 7%, they're allowed to pick up an additional 1%.
So it's an additional 3% for safety classic and 1% for miscellaneous classic.
Correct.
And a different percentage for the PEPRA?
Yeah,
PEPRA is about 6.5. It's a lower rate than the classic.
CalPERS.
CalPERS.
Yeah, we don't.
All right.
I mean, I think it's, we've all discussed this in terms of the contract, and everybody agrees it's a good thing to have that maximum be picked up. I do think that it, and all the problems with CalPERS beg the question of how we afford these pensions. And one thing we should do is talk to our legislative representatives to increase that maximum allowed, because it could be pushed further if state law were to be changed. That's my understanding.
If state law were to be changed and CalPERS changed it, yes, you could do it, subject to a sort of negotiation.
Of course,
Sorry,
yeah.
I'm confused again. Is it a law or is it a CalPERS?
CalPERS law. State law, it's part of it.
I think it's a state law.
State
law. Yeah, state law.
I think it is too.
Yeah. Okay. All right, any other questions for staff, please?
Rick, we'll let you take the charge on, you know.
Fixing Cal.
Fixing Cal.
But I'll
We
be
have a
right
lot
there
of
with
cities
you.
that have the same need that we have.
That's
Yeah,
true.
that's true. So I'm guessing we have no more questions for staff, and I'm gonna ask any member of the public, any comments on this item? Seeing none, I'm closing public comments, back to council. Can I get a motion, please?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, so let's go ahead and final item. Mike is recused on this item. He is
Saying goodbye.
saying goodbye.
Bye, Mike.
As a matter of fact, he won't start till we leave. Mike.
I'm happy to announce why, and that is that I live within relative proximity of the Civic Center project.
We're all invited down after the.
You know, as soon as I get everything out of the boxes, everyone come around the house.
Yes.
Big party.
Just use that.
Celebrate the shortest meeting.
Thank you. I like to hear that. As soon as Mike hits the door, thank you, Mike. Thank you, Mike. All right. Get it, George.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. Item number 18, and Marty will fill in where I missed, is an award of contract to Central Valley Environmental to provide demolition and abatement services for the library building. The building is behind us here. And authorize the city attorney to prepare city manager to execute the contract with Central Valley Environmental to provide that demolition services. And approve a task order with Interwest for the continued work on the Civic Center project. And authorize, again, the city attorney to prepare and staff to execute for that. And it doesn't have the little date here on my title, but it's far lower than the estimate. Again, we had, in this particular instance, we had 3 independent estimators provide us with estimates. MAC 5 provided us with the loss estimate. That was peer reviewed by WRNS. They provided some additional input, and then we had an independent one that we had hired provide an estimate, and they raised it up based on what the market was, and the bids came in lower, which is a wonderful thing, but it still tells you how unpredictable estimators can be in the market.
No, I was just gonna say the engineers, I said after all 3 entities that, you know, like George mentioned, was 440,000. And the low bid came in at 276,856. And the highest bid was 333. So they were very well tightly grouped, those 3.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, so when you say the engineer's bid was 440, was that you got the 3 estimators and then you came up with a composite number, or how was the 440
The
developed?
440 was, they actually went through these line items very, very thoroughly, and between MAC 5, WRNS, and TBD, with the consultants we hired, they had a lot of discussion, a lot of meetings to come up with that 440 that they all agreed upon was the market value of the demolition project.
So all 3 of them and yourself then sat down and you came up with a composite number?
Pretty much the number we can all agree on, right?
Okay, thank you. I just didn't know. But it is surprising that it's way off again.
It's, as the city manager said, it's very unpredictable. But this time it's in our favor. It's in our favor this time.
Yeah, I know that.
But it's very unpredictable, council members.
Any other questions for staff, please? Any members of the public, please step up. Thank you.
So, you gotta come.
Sorry, we have a Mr. Microphone.
Love your name.
Norma Fogelberg, resident of Atherton. So I have a question. Is this bid a not to exceed? Is it locked in at this cost?
Yes.
Or is it an estimate?
It's a not to exceed.
Okay,
There
and
is a change order.
Up to 50,000.
there is.
Right.
Yeah.
And what percentages? What percentage?
It's a fixed amount.
Fixed amount.
Okay.
Yeah, it's fixed.
And are we demoing before we have the costs for construction set?
Yes.
And could someone explain to me that concept?
Well, we were in this period about 6 months where when the bids came in July, or June, I'm sorry, and they came in significantly higher than the
Yes.
engineer's estimate. So the engineer's estimate at that time was 40.5 million. The low bid came in 56 million. Council rejected both bids, and they directed staff to work with the design team and the consultants to rework the project to reduce the overall square
I did read
cost,
that.
right? And so that's taken us about 6 months. So in December, we're coming back with the new bid documents for council's authorization to go out to bid. And then we're gonna go out to bid back in January. So in that period of time, we presented to council that if we go forward with the demolition of the library, we can save 1 to 2 months of the period of the construction period, because otherwise we'd be sitting idle here. And so the direction council said, let's do something in between, and ultimately let's take the time off of the construction of the big project
Okay.
from 1 to 2 months. And the burn rate there is about $200,000 a month for a contractor. So the city actually will save money by doing this now.
Okay, great. Thank you. That answers my question.
Thanks, Norma. Any other members of the public, please, step on that.
I want to hear something nice.
Walter Sleeth, I live in Lindenwood, and I don't want me to step on any toes. All I wanted to say is in this bidding process, let's make sure they understand they've got to save the tiles on that existing library.
That's not the case anymore.
What? Have you
That
done?
changed, that it costs more to save the tile than just to do
All right,
it.
if that's been
It was a lot,
approved
much
and
more
everything.
cost,
Yeah.
it was much more cost effective. In fact, one of the neighbors here is gonna be working with the demo contractor to save a lot of that tile, but they're gonna work in the side agreement, that we have nothing to do with that.
Okay,
Yes,
Thanks,
I
Paul.
hadn't,
good thought though.
I hadn't followed you, because they have to match if you're gonna
Right.
use.
And there's not enough.
So we're not gonna match the tiles on this, we're gonna put new tiles on this?
New tiles, they're all matched together.
All new tiles?
All new tiles.
Thank you very much.
It's actually cheaper that way, Wally, so.
Thank you, Wally. Any other members of the public? Seeing none, I'm gonna go ahead and close public comments, back to council, and final comments. Can I get a motion to?
Second.
And all in favor? Aye. All right, going to, where am I? Can I get a motion to adjourn? Oh, final public comment?
Oh, yeah.
Any final public comment?
Greg's not here.
Yeah.
Oh, Greg's not here. He's coming from Los Angeles. I'm gonna close public comments. And can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All in favor? Aye. Thank you. Jennifer, have a very
Hey, Chief,
wonderful.
we were using the e-readers 15 years ago in Sacramento.